Hi, welcome you everyone. Welcome to Design Thinking in the Age of Agentic AI. So we all know we have kickstarted the journey of Agentic AI today as we stand. We're already either started or experimenting or in the middle of or in the verge of putting things into production. Right, so let's think about how can we apply the Agentic AI transformations in a thoughtful and properly applicable way for the businesses to succeed. Okay, so let's start with an introduction of myself. Myself, Raji. I'm an AI and automation advisor, an angel investor, mentor, and also a speaker. So, in my current role, I help organizations to adopt AI in a scalable and trustable way. So that's what I do. I'm so excited to talk to you all, and we have amazing agenda, packed agenda, and I have a co-presenter with Jen here. So Jen is going to actually kickstart the conversation as well. So over to you, Jen.
Thank you so much, Raji. Yeah, so I'm Jen Griffith. I've been in tech for over 20 years. I'm a self-proclaimed computer nerd. I was involved with computers at a very young age, and I've always had a very big heart and a very empathetic approach to technology and to solving problems with people at the center. So I've been in product for quite some time now, technical product leader and strategist. That's both company strategy and product strategy. And I've been really digging into design thinking over the last several years. And I've taken some recent certifications as well from IDEO, who's considered one of the leading world thinkers in design thinking. So I'm really excited today,
Wow.
especially to partner with Raji.
I'm so lucky to have you, Jen. Like you have tons of experience and applying things into the real world, right? So that teaches a lot, as well as the learning it in a proper control setting, which is academia plus the industry. That's more powerful, right? So lucky to have you. Thank you. So let's jump into the agenda. So today we have a really packed agenda. So we're going to kickstart with why is it design thinking even matters in today's world, and jump into quick perspective of what is agentic AI, because we're going to put these things together and see how the marriage is going to work, right? So, and again, this is an amazing combination, and I would say a secret portion to success, right? So let's see how this works, and then um, looking into design thinking in the AI perspective and how it really works, and jump into a case study. The case study will actually take one of the common problem that we see everywhere in the industry and bisect it and analyze it, like how it can be applied in an empathetic and design thinking approach, and quickly jump into Q&A and some amazing polls at the end. So yeah, we have a quite packed agenda. At the same time, we have reserved some time for you to ask more questions at the end. So let's jump into the agenda. Cool. So let's talk about the MIT study, which we saw in the report. Right. So the MIT report clearly showed, hey, there is a significant the disparity between what success and what fails, right? So less than 10%, to be precise, only close to 5% is the success rate, are where we see the value, the AI actually becoming result-oriented success. I'm just putting the link in the chat. If somebody wants to go and read the report later on, feel free to go ahead and download the report and go through the complete information. So it elaborates very clearly the missing piece in the puzzle is the design thinking. And we don't understand where the problem exists, and we don't know where the problem is actually getting applied, or the solutions are getting applied, and we are not seeing the proper results. So how can we address this problem? Design thinking is the missing piece in the puzzle to solve this and create a larger impact. Great. I'm going to pass it on to Jen to talk about where things are falling apart.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Raji. So things have been feeling a lot. And as Raji mentioned, less than 10% of companies who've been doing AI pilots have seen any measurable return on investment. So that begs the question, where are they failing? And it's interesting that Taco Bell has actually had to rethink their AI ordering interestingly enough, because of how they implemented it, customers were getting very frustrated and then resorting to some really interesting tactics, like ordering thousands of cups of water. I think one customer supposedly ordered 18,000 cups of water in order to be able to get themselves into an exception case so that they could actually talk to a human, because the AI ordering really was falling short. McDonald's as well was has halted some of the recent AI testing. And they had it in place at about 100 locations. Now, this was last year. And so we do know that AI advances pretty quickly, but there was seeing lots of order errors, things like people ordering bacon flavored ice cream or somehow getting into these orders, which is interesting. So talking about like, how was this implemented? Where did they put it into a situation for these customers? The most shocking thing that many of you may or may not be aware of is Meta's recent leak around AI ethics. And so there was a 200-page document that came out a couple months ago, and that was covering standards for what was and wasn't acceptable for AI ethics. And it's interesting that their own policy that they've outlined in this 200-page document says it is unacceptable for a chatbot to describe a child under 13 in explicitly sexual terms, yet they also explicitly permit their agentic AI bots to engage in a child in conversations that are romantic or sensual. So when we see like these failures to apply, humans being frustrated, and really questionable ethics, it's really challenging for us to understand, like, how can we improve these pilots? How can we improve the application of agentic AI? And our perspective is that it's by putting the human first and starting with human needs, human problems, and starting from there from an empathetic perspective, and then working to see where we can use AI to enhance that experience instead of just trying to do AI, right? A lot of companies just want to do AI and they're shoving it into existing processes, not really understanding the impact of what they're doing. I'm going to hand it over to Raji here for some really great insights.
Yeah, so those were amazing cases, real-time cases, which we saw, Jen, right? So, like, be it Meta's scenario where they just rushed, right? There is a lot of pressure to go to market quickly and be there in the first place to grab that initial first mover advantage. But at the same time, like, we are not putting the customer in front and thinking through the process. And the Taco Bell and McDonald's is a classic case of, like, where we are not properly thinking through what the customer might be feeling, and challenges that they will encounter while completely isolated and managed by the agents or these chatbots directly, right? So, but let's see what is that the industry is actually thinking, right? So what is the industry viewpoint? So the chart that you see today in the screen is from the sources from World Economic Forum jobs report, which is published this beginning of this year. And it actually provides a view of 2025 to 2030, what is the overall jobs and the industry changes are going to happen, and how people are going to need to be skilled and what skills are going to become irrelevant. So the view you're looking at right now is what are the different industries that are going to be accelerated and fully automated, or there is a lot of opportunity to fully automate. And what are the industries in the y-axis you see are going, there is not a lot of scope for full automation, but there's going to be a lot of augmentation is what we are looking at, right? So it's basically AI augmentation versus automation across the industries. So if you look at in the chart, insurance and pensions management is seeing a tremendous adoption quickly, and more value in terms of the automation plus augmentation, right? So this gives us a clear view. If you are working in a specific domain, be it supply chain, or be it financial industry, or be it insurance, or be it healthcare, right? For example, government and public sector, you see in the top left, they're not really ready right now for full automation, right? So they're kind of leaning towards augmenting, they don't, as I was chatting with the folks from University of Toronto, they clearly said, we don't want any kind of thing which is going to replace the staff. It has to be just clearly argumented. So that's becoming the fundamental principles for government agencies and public sector, which includes the education as well. So likewise, right, the same thing like with medical, right? There are so much of regulations where full automation is something. A stretch goal, and what is the reality? The acceptable is the argumentation is the approach. So this clearly shows, like, hey, this is what possible even before thinking through what you want to do. So keep in mind the industry is either going to accept or reject, right? So be it you're a person who's launching a product, or you're actually a consultant trying to actually propose a solution to your customer, or you're a student who's trying to actually get into a particular industry and trying out a POC. Like, keep this in mind. So you have to align with the industry and the hype cycles to implement and position your solutions as well. All right, so that's about like where the industry is moving. And next, let's jump into where are we in overall agentic AI life cycle, or like, the trend. So how it all started. So we all started like, last 2 plus 3 plus years back with the advent of ChatGPT. We were able to actually question and get a response. So that's the first box in the top you see. From generative AI models, we were able to generate response and output the way we wanted to get. But from there, what is happening is that this transition to agentic AI is happening right now. So what are agentic AI? So these are the agents which has memory, knowledge, and ability to actually take actions autonomously. So what is the intent? The intent is like there is a defined outcome, and we are trying to tune these agents to perform and generate a tuned outcome. All right. So how is it happening, right? So the how are we able to move from generative AI to agentic AI? By using the fundamental pillar, which is the memory, integration, and AI autonomy. So we are giving the necessary permissions to the agents within the guardrails and checks and balances. And also we are giving enough memory, which is the context. So context means like, what am I doing? So the context within liability will change when it comes to a real estate, when it comes to like a healthcare, right? So both are different, like in different industries may have a different type of context. So it is very important these agents know what is happening and what is the predefined information around these actions that need to be taken. Okay. Integration. So what is integrations? And be it enterprise or a small business, they don't operate in silos, and there is not one single application and one single source of systems that exists. There are plenty of systems. For example, if you look into any banks, etc., they'll have thousands of applications in the landscape, right? So what is this agent needs? What kind of application integrations accesses this agent needs, so that it can actually talk to those applications and complete those actions. So that's the formula which we need to understand and empower these agents to move from traditional Q&A to agentic AI. That's how we can unlock the potential of the real AI's potential. Okay, so with that, I'm passing it on to Jen. Let's understand the flow of design thinking.
Thanks, Raji. Yeah, so design thinking, for those who aren't sure if they've done design thinking before, or just need a bit of a refresher, design thinking is a 5-step process, and it is iterative, which is really interesting. And the core difference with design thinking is, instead of starting with the problem, or starting with the system, or starting with what everybody is demanding, you start with empathy. And that's really core, to actually understand users' needs and pains. It's really important, especially when we think about a lot of business software, productivity software. A lot of it is around frustration and just trying to accomplish a goal and do it as easily and intuitively and simply as possible. No one wants to have 50 steps. No one wants to wonder what they need to click on next. And so when we stop and set aside the existing solutions, the existing processes, and we really get down to like What is the problem here that we're trying to solve? What are the frustrations we're seeing today? What are the gaps? What are the challenges? That's really important. And from there, we move into the next phase, which is about defining. So, defining that problem now that we understand and have a good understanding of it. It's really interesting. We'll go into this in a little bit more detail. And then after this, now that we've defined the problem, now that we have a clear understanding and empathy centric approach, then we can start ideating. This is interesting because most people start ideating and solutioning first, right? Or they start with the problem and they ideate. But this is taking it back to making it human centric. After we've ideated, then we can start prototyping. The interesting thing about prototypes and design thinking, they don't have to be heavy. They don't have to be complex. In this case, we could be using wireframes. We could be using paper and markers, or we could be using something to like Lovable, and we could be scaffolding something to quickly and vibe coding just as a prototype very quickly. We don't want to put a lot of effort into something that is we know is going to evolve, and we want to get feedback and keep those humans at the center. So once we have that prototype, as scrappy or as quick as it may be, it's really important to test it, get it out there in the hands of those users. And this is a process that can repeat many times, right? So after you've done that testing, you get that feedback from the users and say, hey, maybe we need to actually redefine our problem space. We've learned more now that we've put this out there. And so it's really interesting how it goes around and around. And we want to really bring this to something that's usable and a realistic use case. So I'm going to pass it over to Raji to talk a little bit more about our case study.
Great. Thank you, Jen. So we all might have actually heard about the customer support as a domain or as a practice, right? So every single industry needs that, be it in like Amazon sort of a retail or any kind of a insurance company, claims processing, or any kind of a company which is selling financial products, right? So everybody needs a customer support agent, or like your credit card divisions in your banks. What is the core important problem for any organization which is running customer support is customer satisfaction. CSAT is non-negotiable, right? And then the loyalty of the customer. The customer acquisition cost is extremely high in today's scenario. So the retention is the best way, and no organizations can afford to actually let their churn rate go down. And again, brand reputation, so today's socially connected world, if somebody is actually not happy, either they're going to review a review in some place, right? It could be Google, or it could be Reddit forum, or like they're going to trash you out in anywhere, right? So in Instagram or Facebook, everywhere. So the brand reputation of the brand is really important, and to do that, it is becoming humanly impossible to do everything by the agents or the analyst humans. So how can you actually support them with the AI agents? So the predominant challenges that the customer support as an industry faces is extremely high volumes and inadequate training, and they have pretty outdated systems which are really slow and unable to go and navigate. They don't even know where to go and search for this particular information. And how, when we want to actually apply, let's say, oh, we will go and automate it. Oh, there is a huge call volumes are there. But then the moment you go and actually apply an AI or an automation, we don't want to land like McDonald's. We don't want to land like Taco Bell, because the reason is they have missed one point, which is the putting the customer in the front. The empathy piece was missing. So while you have all these business challenges that you want to address and you want to save your metrics, you need to actually put the design thinking as well in the front and center, apply it in a thoughtful way, and go ahead and apply the AI implementations. Then you will not fall under the 95% of the MIT study. You will be under the 5% and reap the benefit, right? So take it in a controlled implementation, you will see the success. All right, so let's jump into the details of how can we implement in a phase wise, in a thoughtful way, I'll pass it on to our design thinking expert, Jen.
Thanks, Raji. I really appreciate it. So this we're going to dig into each step of design thinking a little bit more. And the first one, which is really interesting, as I mentioned before, is empathy and empathizing with people. Now, some people are confused by empathy and sympathy. And the difference between the two is sympathy is feeling for someone, like, oh, Raji, oh, I feel so bad for you. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. But empathy is feeling with someone. So empathy involves understanding and sharing another person's emotions as if you were experiencing them yourself. And that helps foster a deep connection. So sympathy, on the other hand, is a bit more distant feeling of like sorrow or pity for another person's misfortune without necessarily sharing their emotional experience. And so what's really interesting with this as we are looking into empathy and how to empathize, it's not just to talk to the people to find out, it's also to try and experience it ourselves. So in the case of customer support, this is a very straightforward one to experience it for yourself. And that's literally try to support customers. You can sit beside someone who's a customer support agent, or have them sit beside you and try to walk you through it. And it will be nerve-wracking because you're like, oh my goodness, I have 15 incoming chats and I have 40 emails I have to read, and half these people are upset and I don't even know what they're talking about. Is this an important customer? Is this a new customer? Are they even a customer? It is really hard. And when you sit there and you've experienced that, then you actually take that away and you take that to heart and you're like, that was awful. I don't want to do that again. Or I understand why you're stressed when I see you in the break room, you know? And so anytime you have an opportunity to try and experience it or to simulate that experience as much as possible, that is really critical. Now, another interesting thing is that we're not just talking about the users. We do want to make it human-centric, especially in the case of schools, workplaces, and even in our lives. We really want to think about the people that are around that as well, the people that are affected by that are involved. So in our case, for customer support situation and wanting to really use AI effectively to like enhance and uplift the entire experience, we talk not just to the customers, but we also talk to the customer support team themselves. And we talk to the sales team and the marketing team and the product team. And people be like, well, what does product or sales or marketing have to do with customers writing into the customer support team? But by talking to these different teams, even just touching base with them to see if they have a role and they have an interest in that, you can paint a very clear picture of what's going on. So by talking to customers, there was a lot of different input, and some of it is unique and some of it is very consistent. And quite often we're looking for trends across customers. So we saw the customers said there were lots of long wait times. They weren't feeling that they were getting quality, quick responses. They also found some of them were saying that they were getting inconsistent answers depending on who they talked to on that customer support team. And a lot of them were frustrated because of this. So it's not just the facts, but it's also the feelings, right? And how people feel about this. Because the big thing, as Raji mentioned earlier, we want that loyalty. We want to think about our brand. And so that means not just thinking about the human as a step in the journey, but thinking about the human as a fully envisioned person with feelings and challenges as well, too. We also talked to the customer support team. Makes sense because they're interacting with the customers, right? The next closest group to the customers. And hearing what the customer support team was saying, like they're getting a lot of high call volumes, right? And if we had sat down and experienced that, we would agree. So many calls, so many chats, so many emails, right? The customer support team also said they're doing a lot of things again and again and again. And that's something that can really drop their quality of life, right? Doing the same thing over and over again. No one wants to feel like a cog in the system. The customer support team is saying it's hard to find answers quickly, even when they kind of knew what they were looking for. Perhaps the knowledge base articles are scattered about, or the ones that are easily available are older and aren't the latest version, right? So having out of date information. And as well, customer support team, what are they feeling? Overwhelmed. There's so much that are being asked from them. So when we talked to sales and marketing, this was interesting because sales and marketing, sales leads are actually coming in sometimes through the customer chat lines and through emails. And so what's really important for the business is making sure that those leads are handled well potentially being qualified and handed off nicely to the sales team. The marketing team wants to make sure that we have that on brand representation, making sure that all the information that's being communicated to the customers is accurate, but on brand, on voice, and consistent with their copywriting expectations and standards. And product, it's interesting. Product loves to know what's going on in customer service, right? Because they're really interested in retention and churn. Will someone stay or is someone leaving? And so product wants to know, hey, are there some gaps? Are there things that people are complaining about, things that are manual that we could put into the product, take that load off of customer support? Product's also really worried about bugs and quality control with engineering, right? So if there are a lot of people complaining and writing in, product wants to know that so that they'd be able to put that in the backlog and get it resolved sooner. So we can see by starting with the customers and moving out to customer support, sales, marketing, and product, we're actually getting a really holistic picture of this problem space. And so now that we've learned all of this, we're going to move on to the second phase, which is the define. So we've started by gathering information, using a lot of empathy and understanding, and now we need to turn that into what is our problem that we're trying to solve now that we see how big it is. And quite interestingly, a how might we statement is very effective here. In most cases, people are just saying, how might we add a chatbot? How might we do AI, right? And that is pretty narrow. And you see, it doesn't take into account all of the complexity and all the layers that are involved in this. And so after our empathy experiments, suffering ourselves as being a customer service agent, talking to lots of customers, sales, marketing, and product, we've tried to reframe it a couple different ways. And this is the how might we statement that we landed on. How might we empower customer support agents and enhance overall customer experience by leveraging intelligent automation to resolve issues more efficiently and empathetically? So if you look at this problem now from that point of view, instead of how might we add a chatbot, we're going to have a very different approach to how we solve this, right? Which is cool, because next, this is where we lean into the ideation phase. This is the time when we start coming up with potential solutions. This is the time when we think about how we can address that how might we statement. So we've brainstormed, in this case, a wide range of AI-powered solutions in order to address this. And these are just some of them. We had a lot more than this, and we tried to group them together based around big themes. So one of them was an AI-powered knowledge assistant. So in this case, we noted that it was hard for customer support agents in order to find the information that they needed. How about we have AI locating that relevant knowledge base article and coming up with insights in order to assist our human customer support agents. We also thought about, what about a customer-facing tiered chatbot? So this would mean that it would try to handle and triage initially and see if it could answer some of the basic questions. And if it couldn't, that it would be able to seamlessly escalate, and not only escalate, but know who to escalate to, right? Which also brought us to a really interesting concept of sentiment analysis. So how can you tell if someone needs to escalate besides them saying, I need to talk to a supervisor, right? In the case of Taco Bell, remember ordering thousands of cups of water in an attempt to override the system and be seen as an exception, we can just leverage sentiment analysis, because we can tell if people are getting frustrated. That could be a sign that the interaction they're having right now is not meeting their needs. So we don't have to wait for a customer to demand to speak to a supervisor. We can actually infer that. We also thought about automated response suggestions, as our customer support human team is overwhelmed in trying to balance lots of different things. How about, especially when these interactions are emotional, right? Customers are frustrated. That can really wear on a person who's interacting with frustrated people all day. So how can we leverage AI to have it help our customer support agents be able to write back a thoughtful response that is on brand, on voice, calm, and professional, even if they might be feeling a bit frustrated themselves and overwhelmed. So this could help reduce response time and help de-escalate frustrated customers, which is really interesting. And as well, we wanted to make sure that we think about those leads that are coming in for sales as well, because it's really important for a company to be able to grow, and leads are a very high source. we want to make sure those leads get over to sales. We want to make sure they're treated well, but we might be able to triage and answer some basic questions in order to help qualify those leads and enhance that information, and then connect them with the right type of sales company or team that's needed in the case of a B2C customer or a B2B customer, right? So we want to help them up with different parts of our sales team. So now that we've kind of come up with a lot of ideas, we understand the problem space really well. Now is the point where we can start to prototype things. And we can develop low fidelity prototypes for the most promising solutions. So we can use opportunities here. We could do workshops. You can use paper and pen, whiteboards. It doesn't have to be heavy at all. You can do this as a team. You can do this sync or async, come up with different ideas, and then think about what is the most promising one. We're not trying to revolutionize the entire problem space. This is part of design thinking, is moving agile, picking a spot that has a lot of promise, and then trying to prototype and test something in that space and then work out from there. So we're not trying to solve the whole thing. We're just trying to solve from one key point and move out. So we came up with some ideas. We could have an internal knowledge-based chatbot. So this would be a really basic interface for our human and customer service agents in order to query to get information. And this also, because it's internal facing, will help improve the accuracy and speed of our agents, but also gives us a chance to test the accuracy of this bot. This is setting us up for future success for when we might want to turn this bot to make it customer facing. So this is really cool because it's a double-edged sword in some ways. We get to use it internally while also testing and refining it for potential launch to customers. So this would potentially alleviate the situation that McDonald's and Taco Bell ran into, right? Because we're able to pilot it ourselves. Next, we could think about automated email drafts because we know that they are using calls and chats and emails. Email drafts are something that would be really great, that we could hook up an agentic AI process to read the incoming emails and then propose a response draft. And so that could really take a lot of time off of the customer support team, and then they could enhance it or potentially talk back with that agent in order to refine that response. And another third one that we came up with that has a lot of high potential is a basic FAQ chatbot. So what we could do is, if we wanted to do something that was customer facing, pick the top 5 most frequent customer questions that our support team sees again and again and again. It's very cut and dried. And so that can very much accelerate and alleviate the customer support team and give a much better outcome for our customers. And so now that we've done that and we've picked which one we want to prototype this and get that tested right away. So it can be scrappy, it can be vibe coded, it can be mocked up, especially for internal tools. And so we'd want to be looking then for feedback. And that this is the best part about the feedback, getting it out there and getting that feedback again. So our customer service agents will be using these internal prototypes, and we want them to provide us insights like, how usable is it? How accurate is it? Did it actually make it easier and faster for you, or was it too much messing around and it actually slowed you down? If we're doing a customer pilot program, then we'd want to pick a small segment of customers and have them interact with that basic chatbot. So we could target that. We could limit it as well, maybe only over a certain day or a certain time. We could do it off hours when there's less likely to have customers. And that could be something that we do too. So think about when and where and how we want to test that. And then what's really important is the metrics. We're not going through all of this for fun. We're going through this to actually improve a process and make a measurable difference. We really want to move the needle. So really getting clear on what your performance metrics are and knowing what those were before we tested and after, so that we can actually show where the increase came. And is it as much as we thought that we, or hoped that we wanted to achieve by integrating AI in a cohesive way with the customer support agent case study here. So let me turn over to Raji here.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. So, I just want to start with one basic everyday activity that we do, or sometimes we shouldn't be doing as well, right? So we all sometimes tend to actually take a over-the-counter medication. But will you do that for a really serious health issue or a really serious health improvement action plan? You wouldn't do that. So you will actually reach out to the doctor, but the doctor is not going to actually give you the medication right away. The doctor is actually going to run through and find out what is happening through a lab report or a scan report, collect the data, and come back. And if there is any additional referral needed, he's going to bring in that referral. And then the diagnosis, after the diagnosis, the medication is going to be prescribed and the treatment is going to get carried out. So that's the exact analogy I can think of. Imagine you're trying to do this agentic AI transformation like a self-medication. Just like how self-medication is dangerous and may not give you the anticipated outcome and results, um, you will have to bring in all the parties, just like your sales and marketing team, customer support team, product team, who have a tremendous technical depth, and also take account of the end user customer, who is the real hero here, right? So unless you take account of all these people together and apply their thoughts and diagnose it properly, your treatment plan is going to go off the chart and you're not going to see your desired health outcome. So with that thought process, we started with the customer support agent. Okay, so if you look into it, like if I want to go ahead and apply a customer support agentic AI transformation as a leader or as a business unit head for the department head, I would go and look into what are the different pain points and problem statements that I need to attack, and what are the different ideas and solutions. And here is a nice mind map. Draw this mind map and figure out how these multi agents can be coming together to solve your end user problem. So we are moving from the single agent to multi agent scenario. So I'll take a single example. If you look at the topmost box, the customer interactions and engagement, so there are 4 different agents that are working together, right? The omni-channel inquiry agent, personalization agent, or sentiment detection agent, and multilingual agent. So the moment a call comes in, or if somebody is actually speaking in a specific language and it needs to be translated to a language of their preference, or the analyst doesn't know the language that the customer speaks, so we can quickly engage a multilingual agent and translate and pass it on to the analyst who's over the phone. So this is a quick win. Maybe it is actually going to make the customer happy. So what is your priority, or what is your severity, and what is your impact metrics for that? And likewise, break this problem statement into multiple dimensions and use cases, and we can group those functionalities together. How do you group it? You group it using 3 fundamental frameworks we saw: integration, memory, and who else remember what's the third thing?
Autonomy.
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 Yeah. So as a multilingual agent, what are the actions that I can do, and give those powers to the agent? And similarly, you break it down into what kind of agents you can actually deploy. And see, right now we are navigating into a world of MCP and multi agents, right? So it's very important to make all these parties come together and understand, hey, we don't have to boil the ocean. Let's take step by step and apply these framework and apply these technologies, get ready and implement it in a really scalable and trustable fashion, right? Because the overall observability and governance also is important. We don't want to actually the agents to go rogue, right? So we have more content to cover on that aspect as well, on that topic. Yeah, so this is a clear example, right? So where do we see the benefits? We wouldn't be able to tell unless we have really correct data with us. For example, I would like to take the case resolution and workflow automation. The third one, the root cause analysis and the workflow orchestration, right? So most of the organizations will have a lot of tremendous improvement opportunity in the workflow orchestration piece, but we need to know which workflow is actually going to give us the more benefit in terms of the overall return on investment, as well as to the end customer as well, right? So applying this together as all the teams, as well as getting the underlying systems ready for integration and applying the autonomy and governance is going to make it successful. So that's how we can transform any business problem statement using design thinking. Okay, cool. So I am going to jump on to the next slide. All right. So while doing this, what are the common pitfalls or the challenges that comes in, right? So um, sometimes, as I said, there is a pressure from the top to go live soon, right? And to go live soon, people might actually miss certain requirements. What it can actually result is the misaligned solutions. What was expected and what's the outcome is completely different. So you're not going to see the results, and people are not going to be happy when we have implementations done in a hurry and have misaligned solutions, or we are missing that party in the game, right? So sometimes that part we don't like them, we don't include them in the design thinking. No, that's not how it works. So whether you like it or not, the party who are involved in that process has to come and contribute, and then only we will see the success story. And the next one in the second row, the first row, second column, check the box mentality. Oh my god, like, this is the bureaucracy. And for example, similar to that is the ethical risk, right? The check the box and the ethical risks are interlinked, right? The moment you actually are going to do the check the box, you are going to result in ethical risks, and you're going to result in other risks as well, right? So that's exactly happened in Facebook. So if you remember, going back to the Facebook story, right? There was a legal team, there was a ethics team, but what did they do? They have actually reviewed and stamped it. And before the chatbot, the agent went live, and that's unacceptable, right? So that has actually resulted in the ethical risk and brand reputation, and they had to literally go and say, hey, oh yeah, sorry, we updated it. And so that's what happens. We don't want to land there. So these are some of the challenges that we need to be really mindful and apply it as we go ahead and adopting the design thinking mindset. We still need to be drawing the guardrails as part of the process, right? So the tool first thinking, right? So unless your product team or unless your customer support team knows, hey, here is the art of possible, they are not going to be ready to either adopt or ready to actually even suggest an idea, right? So I have seen sometimes, like, the customer support agents, like, there is a capability or the integration or the solution available. Oh no, I'm so used to doing things in my own way. No, the change management is really important, and then everybody in the organization has to actually think tool first, right? So that education within the end user, as well as the middle users, as well as the product people, everybody is really important. And if we apply all these realm of things, we will be able to implement a successful transformation. So cool. With that, I'm going to pass it on to Jen.
Thank you so much, Raji. Appreciate it. So, well, after all of this that we've shared, there's some really key takeaways. And we believe that there's three principles for responsible AI implementation, especially when we're talking about agentic AI, as interfacing with people and taking actions on behalf of humans. And we think it's really important to start with people, not tech. For those of you who have a technical background, we've probably all seen this or even experienced it ourselves. We learn some kind of new tool or tech stack, and what do we want to do? We want to apply it to everything or try to apply it wherever we can, right? When you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. In this case, we've been finding it happening with AI and agentic AI. People want to just do AI. And really what we're suggesting here is set that aside. Start first with people, learn about that, define the problem space, and then start to ideate what that looks like. And sometimes that doesn't require agentic AI. Sometimes that only requires machine learning. Sometimes that only requires basic rules that you would code normally. So the point isn't to shove AI into everything, it's to know when and where to apply it and how to apply it thoughtfully, keeping the humans and the users at the middle. And as well, like to Raji's point here, we're looking to design for transformation, not just automation. Because if you come at it from here's the process as it exists today, what part can I automate? We're just going to be shoving it in places. But really, AI has given us an opportunity to look at these problem spaces and transform how we approach these problems. So in the case of customer support, we're not just shoving in a chatbot. We can literally transform so much of the workflow and improve things for sales, marketing, our customer support team, product, and most importantly, our users. So everyone benefits in this case, not just one party, not just one part of the process. We really need to think about how we can transform how we work with AI, not just automate it. And as well, I think the last thing that's very important is to build this responsibility in mind, like being thoughtful about this, being intentional with what features we're building, how we're implementing it, considering the ethics, and thinking about what that experience looks like, and doing it intentionally with your eyes wide open, and embracing this new opportunity we have.
All right, so I think we are almost at the end of the polls. There is one question in the Q&A. I'm going to put this in the chat. Maybe we can take this question while we have 2 minutes. So what actually government regulatory responsibilities do government regulatory themselves have good understanding about AI? Yes, all the individual organizations are right now working towards data sovereignty. So if you're not aware of Europe, China, even Canada and US, all of them are focused on, at this moment, data sovereignty as a whole. I don't want the data to leave my borders. That's what data sovereignty means to the core, right? So they're starting with that. At the same time, there is a lot of regulations that are evolving as things are actually moving in a fast pace as well. Yeah. And I would say EU is like European Union is a little bit ahead in the game in terms of putting up with the rules and regulations. If you have not read EU AI Act, so that's a pretty elaborate and expanded guidelines that they have published. So that's the place where you can actually learn more about the regulations, how they are trying to implement and transform at the same time, safeguard the people as well.
I think it's really important for those who might not have seen it, just announced very recently, TELUS has announced the first sovereign AI factory in Canada that they built in Quebec. And this is the first example where like all the hardware, the entire facility is within Canadian borders. And that means that all the processing, the thinking of the AI is done within Canada as well too. We've seen that this is a big concern across enterprises, like especially larger enterprises. They quite often have to have data residency and have it reside in Canada. But with AI, a lot of times it means that data is being sent to an AI and being processed in other countries, which is also a bit of a risk. So TELUS has made this first major leap in being able to offer this. So for large enterprises that want to make sure of their data residency, not just the storage, but the processing of agentic AI is going to be in Canada now.
Yeah, and there is one announcement I recently saw. Government has lots of funding, even for small businesses and medium-sized businesses. You can actually apply for compute power, right? So if you want to have a business and then you are actually trying to experiment something, or the universities wants to experiment something, and there is a huge funding that has been allocated for grabbing a grant and using that for your compute. Essentially, right? You want to train your model, etc. So we see there is a lot of investments and decisions coming up from the government side, but it's still evolving. I wouldn't say it's foolproof.
Hey, Raji, I just want to take a moment here because we had something we want to talk about potentially with our deep dive session. If you want to kind of take everyone through that.
Yes. So we're almost at the end of the design thinking session. So if you want to learn from the experts, so we are ready to actually teach you, handhold you, apply how these design thinking sessions works, and equip you with the tools. The point I'm trying to say is, like, for example, this to do a design thinking sessions, you can use collaborative tools with the users who you talk to, right? How do you drive these sessions, and how do you actually collect these data, and how do you synthesize and then, like, apply this design thinking into the implementation using some of the vibe code tools that Jen mentioned on the prototyping, right? So if you have not heard of Jen, Jen highlighted some of the tools like Lovable, Emergent, or Bold, or what else I'm missing? Yeah, so Replit, right? So there are plenty of vibe coding tools as well available. So you're going to learn from the experts. You're going to learn about the process. You're going to equip yourself with the tools. So we're actually trying to launch a design thinking session, a masterclass session covering all these concepts. If you're interested, reach out to us. So you can reach out to either me or Jen. Scan the LinkedIn. We'll be posting you soon. Scan and send us a connection request, and then type design. You will be given a primary user, or like a early user discounts. So you will be considered under a few spots which will be reserved for discounted prices as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. So please, absolutely, if you got a moment, scan the QR codes on the screen. You can connect with us on LinkedIn, even if you just want to follow along and see some of the great things that we're offering next and coming up. And it's always great to make new connections with friends around the world who are passionate about design thinking. Absolutely. Is there any last questions that we'd like to take, Raji?
I think we covered all questions.
All right. Well, I think we could call it there. Thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate all the attendance. Thank you so much for joining us from all around the world. So many wonderful people. Thank you so much for your participation and your interest. And please share what you've learned with the world. Take a human-centric approach. Be really thoughtful about how AI can transform your processes at school, at work, and even at home as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.